The VHS tape flickered to life in the darkness, grainy and washed with the amber hue of early 1990s video. A younger man stood center frame wearing desert camouflage utilities and the calm expression of someone who had seen combat and survived it. Master Chief Richard Ghost Brennan, 34 years old. Lean, compact movements efficient even when standing still. Behind him, a training mat stretched across what looked like a converted warehouse. The date stamp in the corner read December 18th, 1990. Kira, Ghost said, looking directly into the camera, speaking to a daughter not yet born. If you're watching this, I'm gone, but I'm still teaching you. He stepped onto the mat, demonstrated a wrist lock in perfect silence. No wasted motion, no theatrics, just pure mechanical efficiency, the kind that came from 10,000 repetitions until muscle memory replaced conscious thought. Violence of action, he said quietly. Surgical precision. Zero hesitation. A younger man entered the frame. 24, broad-shouldered, nervous energy. Baby-faced but already carrying himself like a warrior. The name tape on his uniform read, Hargrave. Ready? Ghost asked. Hargrave nodded, threw a punch. What happened next lasted 3 seconds. Ghost redirected the strike, locked the wrist, rotated his hips, and Hargrave hit the mat hard but controlled. Not injured, just humbled. See that, Ghost said to the camera. Physics beats strength, technique beats calm beats anger, every single time. He helped Hargrave up, reset the drill. My wife is 8 months pregnant. Ghost continued, still looking at the lens. I deploy in 9 days, Desert Storm. Might not come back, so I'm recording everything I know, 847 hours of footage. Every technique, every principle, every lesson I learned the hard way. He paused, something flickering across his face. Not fear, something deeper. Kira, if you're watching this, you're probably wondering why I'm teaching you how to hurt people. Here's why the world is dangerous. It always has been. And the only thing standing between innocent people and evil men is skill. Training, the willingness to act when everyone else freezes. Another demonstration, another technique. The camera angle showed his footwork, the precise rotation of his body, the way he turned an opponent's momentum into leverage. I'm teaching you because I won't be there to protect you, Ghost said. So you'll have to protect yourself. And maybe if you choose this path, you'll protect others, too. The tape cut to black. 33 years later, that same tape played on a laptop screen in a weathered pickup truck rolling through the gates of Naval Base Coronado. The Pacific morning was cold and gray, typical for early January. Seagulls screamed overhead. The smell of salt water and diesel fuel hung heavy in the air. Lieutenant Kira Brennan, 31 years old, sat behind the wheel and watched her father teach her for the 10,000th time. She had memorized every word, every movement, every pause. The tapes had been her companion since childhood. Her mother had given her the first one on her 6th birthday, along with a letter explaining that Daddy was a hero who lived forever in these recordings. Kira had never met her father in person. He deployed to Desert Storm in January 1991 when her mother was 8 months pregnant. He died February 15th, 1991, in Al-Khafji, Saudi Arabia, during a close-quarters battle in a shipping facility. She was born 10 months later, December 28th, 1992. Named Kira because Ghost had chosen it, written it in a letter her mother received 3 weeks after his death. The security guard at the gate checked her orders, looked at her face, then back at the paper. Ma'am, this says you're reporting as CQB lead instructor. That's correct. For the annual demonstration. Correct. He handed back her ID expression, carefully neutral. Kira could read it anyway. The skepticism, the barely concealed amusement. A woman 5'4", maybe 130 pounds, coming to teach close-quarters combat to Navy SEALs. To the hardest men in the hardest military on Earth. She had seen that look before. Many times, it didn't bother her anymore. Welcome to Coronado, ma'am, the guard said. Parking is, I know where it is, Kira said quietly. My father was an instructor here, 1987 to 991. The guard's expression changed. Your father, ma'am. Master Chief Richard Brennan. A long pause, recognition flickering across the young man's face. Ghost Brennan. Yes. Ma'am, the guard straightened unconsciously, coming to attention. It's an honor. The Master Chief is, He's a legend here. They still teach some of his techniques in basic CQB. Kira nodded, said nothing, drove through. The base looked the same as it had in her father's videos. Same buildings, same layout, same Pacific horizon, stretching endless and gray beyond the training facilities. She had visited once as a child aged 6 when her mother brought her to a memorial ceremony. She barely remembered it. Just the flag, the uniforms, the feeling of being very small in a world of giants. Now she was back, not as a child, not as a visitor, as an instructor. She parked in front of the training facility, grabbed her duffel bag from the truck bed, and looked up at the building. Second floor, third window from the left. That had been her father's office. She had seen it in dozens of training videos, the same worn desk and metal filing cabinets visible in the background. A voice behind her, rough and weathered by decades of salt air and cigarette smoke. "Lieutenant Brennan?" Kira turned. The man standing there was 63 years old, but still built like someone who could run 10 miles and then fight at the end of it. Graying hairline, face, cold blue eyes that had seen too much death to be impressed by much anymore. The name tape on his utilities read Hargrave. Master Chief, multiple combat action ribbons. Trident insignia worn and faded from years of wear. Kira recognized him immediately. The young man from the video, baby-faced Hargrave who got thrown on the mat, now weathered and hard and carrying the weight of 33 years of military service. "Master Chief Hargrave," Kira said. "Good to see you again." Hargrave stared at her, something unreadable in his expression. Not hostility, not quite warmth either. Something complex layered with history and grief and perhaps guilt. "You were 6 years old last time I saw you," he said, "at your father's memorial. You probably don't remember." "I remember the flag," Kira said, "and you. You gave me your challenge coin, told me to keep it until I was old enough to understand what it meant." Hargrave blinked, surprised. "You still have it?" Kira pulled it from her pocket. Worn brass unit insignia on one side, tarnished but intact. "Never went anywhere without it." A long silence. Hargrave's jaw worked like he was trying to find words and failing. Finally, he just nodded, gestured toward the building. "Your quarters are on the second floor. Same room your father had." "I know. Commander Cross wants to see you at 0900. That's in 40 minutes. I'll be there." Hargrave turned to leave, stopped, looked back. "Kira," he said, using her first name for the first time, "your father was the finest instructor I ever trained under, the finest warrior I ever served with. And when he died saving my squad, I made him a promise. I promised I'd watch over his daughter if she ever needed it." Kira met his eyes. "I don't need watching over, Master Chief." "I know," Hargrave said quietly. "I pulled your file. CIA contractor. 47 confirmed kills. Multiple hand-to-hand certifications. Declined JSOC recruitment 3 times. You're probably the most qualified person on this base to teach CQB. Then why do you look worried?" Hargrave glanced around, lowered his voice. "Because the men don't know that. They see a woman 5'4" coming to teach them, and they're going to test you. Hard. Brutally. They're going to try to break you, embarrass you, run you off. Not because they're bad men, because they're scared." "Scared of what?" "Change," Hargrave said. "The world is different now than when your father and I served. Women in combat roles, new regulations, everything they knew is shifting, and you're walking into the middle of that." Kira shouldered her duffel bag. "Master Chief, I've been tested my whole life by men bigger, stronger, meaner than anyone on this base. I'm still here. They're not." Hargrave studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You got his eyes," he said. "Same calm, like you've already seen how the fight ends and you're just going through the motions." "Maybe I have." "What do you see?" "Me standing," Kira said, "and them learning." She walked past him into the building. The office of Commander Nathaniel Cross occupied the corner of the administration building with a view of the Pacific. Cross himself sat behind a mahogany desk that had probably been there since the 1960s, reviewing paperwork with the tired efficiency of a man who had spent too many years managing warriors instead of being one. He was 58, tall, lean gray at the temples. His uniform was pressed to knife-edge precision. His ribbons told the story of a career that had started in the Cold War and stretched through Desert Storm Bosnia, Afghanistan. But the look in his eyes was the look of someone who had transitioned from warrior to administrator and knew it and resented it. Kira entered at exactly 0900, stood at attention. Cross looked up, studied her with the clinical detachment of someone assessing equipment. "Lieutenant Brennan," he said, "sit." She sat. Cross opened a folder. "Your record is unusual. 4 years Naval Academy, top of your class in hand-to-hand combat, graduated 2014, declined a SEAL support posting, instead went CII, contractor work, Iraq and Syria, 8 years, 47 confirmed kills, mostly close quarters work in urban environments. Then you disappeared for 2 years, and now you're back requesting active duty commission and assignment to SEAL Training Command." He looked up. "Why?" "Personal reasons, sir." "That's not an answer, Lieutenant." Kira met his eyes. "My father was an instructor here, Master Chief Richard Brennan. He died in Desert Storm before I was born. I grew up watching his training videos, learning his techniques, and I decided I wanted to continue his work." Cross leaned back. "Ghost Brennan, yes, I knew him. Briefly. I was a lieutenant commander when he was a Master Chief. Different worlds, but paths crossed. He was exceptional. Revolutionary, even. His techniques changed how we thought about close quarters combat." "I know, sir." "Do you know why he was called Ghost?" "Because enemies never saw him coming," Kira said. "He moved like smoke. Silent, fast, disappeared before they could react." "That's the legend," Cross said. "The truth is simpler. He was called Ghost because he studied death, obsessively, watched footage of every hand-to-hand engagement he could find, analyzed what worked and what didn't, stripped away ego and emotion and tradition, kept only what was effective. And he taught others to do the same, to be emotionally detached in combat, like a ghost, there but not present, acting without feeling." Cross closed the folder. "Your father died saving 8 men. Did you know that?" "I know the basic facts, sir." "The basic facts don't do it justice." Cross's voice went distant, like he was reading from memory. "Al-Kafji, February 15, 1991. Coalition forces retaking the city. Your father's squad clearing a shipping facility. They walked into an ambush. 8 enemy fighters confined space a kill box. Your father went in first, alone. 3 minutes later, 8 enemies dead or incapacitated, all hand-to-hand, no shots fired. But he took 3 rounds in the process, died securing the exit so his squad could escape." Kira said nothing. She had read the after-action report 100 times, had it memorized. "He was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously," Cross continued. "Your mother never claimed it. Records show she moved after his death, never updated her address. The medal sat in a Navy archive for 33 years. "I didn't know about the medal," Kira said quietly. "I have it now," Cross said. "In my office safe. I can arrange for you to receive it if you want. Formal ceremony, full honors." "After the demonstration, sir, if I earn it." Cross raised an eyebrow. "If you earn it, Lieutenant, it's your father's medal. You don't need to earn it." "Yes, sir, I do." Kira's voice was flat, final. "If I walk in here as Ghost Brennan's daughter and ask for respect based on his legacy, I'm no better than the men who inherit rank and position. I need to prove myself first. Then I can accept his honors." A long silence. Cross studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "The demonstration is tomorrow," he said finally. 300 SEALs. Annual Advanced CQB Showcase. Normally we have a senior instructor lead it. This year I'm assigning you. Understood, sir? You'll be partnered with a volunteer from the audience, someone who agrees to be your demonstration opponent." "That's fine, sir." "Lieutenant." Cross leaned forward, voice hardening. "I need you to understand what you're walking into. These men are not going to be kind. They're going to see a woman half their size claiming to teach them close quarters combat. Some will be dismissive, some will be hostile. And whoever volunteers to face you is going to try to embarrass you, to prove you don't belong here." "I understand, sir." "Do you? Because if you fail, if you look weak or incompetent, it sets back every female officer in the Navy. That's not fair, but it's reality. You're not just representing yourself. You're representing all of them." Kira stood. Commander, with respect, I'm not representing anyone. I'm demonstrating techniques my father developed. If they work, they work. If they don't, I deserve to fail. But they will work, sir, because my father was right, and I learned from the best. Cross stood as well, offered his hand. I hope you're right, Lieutenant. I genuinely do. Because I made a promise to myself after your father died. I promised that if his daughter ever followed his path, I'd give her every opportunity to succeed. They shook hands. Dismissed, Cross said. And Lieutenant Master Chief Hargrave will be in the audience tomorrow. He requested permission to attend. I granted it. He was my father's student, Kira said. Of course he'll be there. He was more than a student, Cross said quietly. He was your father's closest friend, and he's carried guilt for 33 years because your father died saving his squad. Be gentle with him tomorrow, whatever happens. Kira nodded, left the office. The training facility at Naval Base Coronado had not changed in 3 decades. Same bleachers, same mats, same smell of rubber and sweat and determination. Kira stood alone on the mat at Euro 600 3 hours before the demonstration and ran through forms in the dim pre-dawn light. Wrist lock, hip rotation, controlled throw, reset. Again. She had done this sequence 10,000 times, maybe more. First learning it from VHS tapes, watching her father demonstrate in slow motion, pausing, rewinding, watching again. Then practicing on heavy bags. Then on training partners at various dojos and gyms. Then on enemy combatants in Mosul and Raqqa, and a dozen other cities where close quarters meant life or death. The muscle memory was so deep now that she could execute techniques without conscious thought. Her body knew what to do before her mind registered the threat. You're up early, Kira turned. Hargrave stood in the doorway wearing PT gear, coffee in hand. Couldn't sleep, she said. Nervous? No. Liar. Hargrave walked onto the mat, set down his coffee. I've been doing this for 40 years. I can spot nerves from 100 yards. Not nervous, Kira corrected. Thinking. About whether my father would be proud. She resumed her forms. Or disappointed. Hargrave was quiet for a moment. What makes you think he'd be disappointed? Because I left the Navy after 4 years. Went contractor. Spent 8 years killing people for money instead of serving with honor. You killed terrorists, Hargrave said. Enemy combatants, not innocent people. Does that make it better? I don't know, Hargrave admitted, but I know your father would understand. He wasn't a simple man, Kira. He believed in service, yes, but he also believed in effectiveness, in doing what needed to be done regardless of politics or public opinion. If you killed 47 enemy fighters and saved American lives doing it, he'd call that a job well done. Kira stopped, turned to face him. Did you watch the tapes, the ones he made for me? Every single one, Hargrave said. Your mother sent me copies, said your father wanted me to have them in case you ever needed guidance. I've studied them for 33 years, tried to teach what he taught. But I'm not him, Kira. I don't have his gift. What gift? At clarity, Hargrave said. Your father could look at a technique and immediately see what was essential and what was theater. He stripped away everything unnecessary until only the core remained. Pure efficiency. That's why his techniques worked when others failed. He stepped onto the mat, fell into a fighting stance. Attack me. Master Chief, I don't think... Attack me, Hargrave repeated, like you mean it. Kira hesitated for only a second, then moved. A fast right jab, testing his reaction. Hargrave blocked it, tried to counter with a left hook. Kira wasn't there anymore. She had flowed around his defense, locked his wrist, rotated her body, and suddenly Hargrave was airborne. He landed hard on the mat, controlled but undeniable. She released him, stepped back. Hargrave lay there for a moment, breathing hard, then started laughing. A deep, genuine laugh that echoed in the empty training facility. What? Kira asked. That was Ghost, Hargrave said, sitting up. That exact sequence. The same timing, the same flow. I've felt that throw once before in my life, from your father. January 1991, 3 weeks before he deployed. He stood rubbing his shoulder. You don't just know his techniques, Kira. You are his techniques. Like he downloaded himself into you through those videos. Is that good or bad? It's terrifying, Hargrave said honestly. Because watching you move is like watching a ghost. Your father alive again. And these men tomorrow, they're going to feel it too. They're going to see something they can't explain. A woman half their size, moving like a warrior they only know from legends. He picked up his coffee. My advice, don't hold back. Show them everything. Because if you give them any reason to doubt, they'll seize it. But if you show them undeniable skill, warrior to warrior, they'll respect you. SEALs respect strength, not size, not gender, pure capability. And if they don't respect me, Hargrave smiled, tired and sad, then they're not the men I think they are. And they sure as hell aren't worthy of learning from Ghost Brendan's daughter. He left. Kira returned to her forms. Sunrise began to light the Pacific horizon through the high windows. 3 hours until the demonstration. She thought about her father, about the promise he made to a daughter he would never meet, about 847 hours of footage, a life's worth of knowledge compressed into magnetic tape, about whether she was ready to step out of the shadow and prove she belonged. The answer she knew would come soon enough. The auditorium at Naval Base Coronado filled slowly at first, then all at once. 300 Navy SEALs, from fresh buds, graduates, to grizzled veterans with silver in their beards and combat scars like badges of honor. They filled the bleachers, voices loud, energy aggressive. The annual CQB demonstration was mandatory but usually entertaining. A chance to watch senior instructors showcase techniques, critique, form swap war stories. This year felt different. Word had spread. A woman was leading the demonstration, some impossibly small female officer with zero SEAL experience, coming to teach them close-quarters combat. The reaction ranged from amusement to outrage. Near the front, Chief Colton Briggs held court with a cluster of younger SEALs. Briggs was 38, 6'3", 245 pounds of muscle and ego. He had a reputation. Fast hands, fearless, and famous for a bet he won in 2019 when he bench-pressed a diesel engine block for a case of beer. "This is politically correct bullshit," Briggs said loud enough for half the auditorium to hear. "We're the tip of the spear, the hardest men in the world, and they're sending us a secretary to teach us how to fight." Laughter rippled through his section. A younger SEAL, Lieutenant Owen Dalton, 27 years old and quiet by nature, spoke up. "Maybe she's qualified. Commander Cross wouldn't assign someone incompetent." Briggs snorted. "Cross is a politician now. He cares about optics, not capability. This is a diversity checkbox. Nothing more." "You don't know that," Dalton said. "I know enough." Briggs cracked his knuckles, a habit he had when violence was near. "And when they ask for a volunteer to demonstrate with you, I'm stepping up. Show everyone this is a joke." Higher in the bleachers, Master Chief Hargrave sat alone, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He had been to 1,000 demonstrations over 40 years. This was the first one that made his stomach tight with anxiety. Not for himself, for Kira. Commander Cross entered through a side door, took position at the podium. The room quieted. "Gentlemen," Cross said, voice carrying easily over the residual noise. "Thank you for attending today's annual Advanced CQB demonstration. This year we have a special presentation. Our lead instructor is Lieutenant Kira Brennan, recently commissioned from civilian contractor, work with the CIA. Murmurs spread like wildfire. CIA contractor. That at least carried weight. But still, a woman, teaching them. Lieutenant Brennan will demonstrate advanced hand-to-hand techniques," Cross continued, "and she will need a volunteer opponent from the audience." Every eye in the room turned toward the door where instructors typically entered. Briggs stood immediately. "Wait, permission to volunteer." Cross looked at him, expression neutral. "Granted, Chief Briggs. Report to the mat." Briggs descended the bleachers, all swagger and confidence. He had 40 pounds on any normal woman, probably 80 pounds on whoever this instructor was. This would be over in seconds. The side door opened. Kira Brennan walked in. The auditorium went utterly silent. She was small. That was the first thing everyone noticed. 5'4", maybe 130, soaking wet. Plain utilities, no ribbons visible, no trident, nothing that marked her as exceptional. Her hair was pulled back in a tight regulation bun. Her face was calm, almost expressionless. She carried nothing. No gear, no weapon, no demonstration materials. Just her body and whatever she had learned. Whispers started immediately. Some SEALs laughed openly. Others stared with frank disbelief. Briggs grinned, looked up at his friends in the bleachers. "This is a joke, right?" he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "They want her to demonstrate hand-to-hand with me." More laughter. Kira ignored it. She walked to the center of the mat with calm, measured steps, set her cover on a chair, turned to face Briggs. Cross-stepped forward. Gentlemen, this year's advanced CQB demonstration will be led by Lieutenant Brennan. The room went completely quiet. Not respectful quiet. Shocked quiet. Briggs looked at Cross, then at Kira, then back at Cross. Sir, permission to speak. Permission denied, Cross said flatly. Begin when ready, Lieutenant. Kira stepped onto the mat. Briggs followed, still grinning, playing to the crowd. Don't worry, ma'am, he said, voice carrying across the silent auditorium. I'll go easy on you. He didn't finish the sentence. Kira moved first, a single step, barely visible. Just a shift of weight, a closing of distance that put her inside Briggs's reach before he registered she had moved at all. Briggs's grin faded. He planted his feet, instinct taking over. Started to circle, trying to use his size to intimidate her. 300 elite warriors leaned forward, expecting her to fold the second he rushed in. She didn't fold. Briggs lunged, a fast right hook, the kind of punch that had ended bar fights and training bouts for 2 decades. Too fast for most untrained eyes to follow. A blur of speed and power that should have connected with devastating force. Kira saw it before it formed. Raid his shoulder, his hip rotation, the telegraphed violence of a man who had relied on size and speed his entire life. Her left hand snapped upward, not blocking the punch, but deflecting it, redirecting the energy past her head. Her right hand locked around Briggs's wrist in the same instant. Her body turned with perfect timing, hips driving power using his momentum against him. There was a sound, a crack that echoed across the silent auditorium like a gunshot. Briggs's face went from confident to shocked to twisted with agony in the span of a single heartbeat. He dropped to one knee, his right arm bent at an angle that arms don't bend. A compound radius fracture, clean and precise. The entire room went dead silent. Kira kept her grip controlled, calm. Her voice was steady, clinical, carrying across 300 frozen warriors. Chief, do not move. Your radius is fractured. Gasps rippled through the stands. Some SEALs rose to their feet. Others stared like they were witnessing something impossible. Something that violated the fundamental laws of physics. Colton Briggs, the man who bench-pressed engine blocks, who had fought in Fallujah and Kandahar, and a dozen other places where violence was currency, was pinned to the mat by someone half his size. Kira released him only when the medic sprinted onto the mat. She stepped back, expression neutral, breathing steady. Not a drop of sweat on her face. Not a hair out of place. But the moment wasn't over. As they lifted Briggs onto a stretcher, he grabbed her sleeve with his good hand. His face was pale with shock and pain, but his eyes were clear. How, he whispered. Kira leaned in just enough for him to hear. You attacked with ego, Chief. I responded with physics. She straightened. The room remained silent. Not a shout, not a whisper. 300 elite warriors watching her like she had just rewritten the fundamental rules of their world. Commander Cross stepped forward, gestured to the projector screen at the back of the auditorium. Lieutenant Brennan, he said, his voice formal, but carrying an edge of something else. Pride, maybe? Or vindication? It's not here to embarrass anyone. She is here because she earned the highest CQB score in the Pacific Fleet. Higher than mine. Higher than yours. Higher than every man in this room. A murmur spread across the stands. Not hostile now. Respectful. Humbled. Kira stepped forward again, directly into the center of the mat. Her voice carried across the silent auditorium, clear and unwavering. I'm not here to prove I'm stronger, she said. Strength fades. Size is an advantage, but not a guarantee. Anger blinds. Ego kills. Technique endures. She paused, scanning the room. Every eye locked on her. In close quarters combat, the calm fighter always wins. Not the biggest, not the strongest. The one who sees clearly and acts without hesitation. Cross signaled for the next portion of the demonstration. But something unexpected happened. One SEAL stood, then another, then entire rows. Every SEAL in the auditorium, from fresh trainees to battle-hardened veterans with 20 years of service, rose to their feet. Not because they were ordered, not because protocol demanded it, because respect demanded it. The applause began slowly, then grew until the entire auditorium thundered with it. 300 pairs of hands creating a sound like artillery fire rolling and echoing and building until the walls seemed to shake. Kira didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't acknowledge the ovation with anything except a slight bow of her head. It was the only acknowledgement she needed. Later, as the SEALs filed out still talking in hushed, amazed tones, one of the youngest recruits whispered to his buddy, "Who is she?" Master Chief Hargrave, passing by, answered quietly. "She's Ghost Brennan's daughter, and she's the one they'll send to train the people you pray you never fight." The recruit stared at Kira, still standing on the mat, reviewing notes with Commander Cross. "Ghost Brennan had a daughter. He died before she was born," Hargrave said, "but he taught her anyway. 847 hours of training footage. She learned from the best instructor the SEALs ever produced. And now she's here to pass it on." He walked away, leaving the recruit staring at Kira with something approaching awe. On the mat, Cross spoke quietly. "That was exceptional, Lieutenant. You have their attention now. The question is, what will you do with it?" Kira looked up at the empty bleachers, the lingering energy of 300 warriors who had just had their assumptions shattered. "I'll teach them, sir, like my father would have. No ego, no politics, just technique. Pure and effective. And if they resist, then I'll break them like I broke Briggs," Kira said simply. "Not to hurt them, to rebuild them, stronger, better, the way my father rebuilt Master Chief Hargrave 33 years ago." Cross studied her for a long moment. "You know the next phase, don't you? JSOC wants you for something bigger than demonstrations." "I assumed as much, sir." "Report to my office at 1400 hours. We'll discuss the mission parameters." "Understood, sir." Cross left. Kira remained on the mat alone now, the auditorium empty except for echoes. She pulled out her phone, opened the video folder, found the tape from December 18th, 1990. Her father teaching young Hargrave the exact technique she had just used on Briggs. Ghost's voice tinny through the phone speaker. "The wrist lock is not about strength. It's about understanding leverage and anatomy. If you do it right, a child could break a grown man's arm." You see, Kira watched her father demonstrate his movements, precise and economical. "Remember," Ghost continued on the tape, "you're not fighting to hurt people. You're fighting to protect people. The fastest way to end a threat is to disable their ability to harm others. A broken arm ends the fight without killing. That's the goal. Control, not carnage." The tape ended. Kira sat on the mat surrounded by silence and felt the weight of legacy pressing down on her shoulders. Her father had been dead for 33 years. But in this moment, in this place, teaching these techniques to these warriors, he was alive again. And she was the one keeping him that way. She stood, gathered her gear, and walked out of the auditorium into the California morning. The Pacific stretched endless and gray beyond the base. Somewhere out there in some future moment she couldn't yet see waited the real test. The mission that would prove whether she was truly her father's daughter, or just a woman with a famous name and a collection of old videos. She would find out soon enough. The afternoon sun burned through the marine layer by 1400 hours, turning Naval Base Coronado into a grid of sharp shadows and bleached concrete. Kira walked across the parade ground toward the administration building, aware of eyes tracking her movement. Word had spread fast. The woman who broke Colton Briggs's arm, Ghost Brennan's daughter, a legend reborn in female form. She ignored the stairs, climbed the stairs to Commander Cross's office, knocked twice. "Enter." Cross sat behind his desk with another man Kira didn't recognize. Older, maybe 65, wearing civilian clothes but carrying himself with unmistakable military bearing. Close-cropped gray hair, weathered face, eyes that had seen too much violence to be surprised by anything anymore. "Lieutenant Brennan," Cross said. "This is Mr. Davidson. He's with JSOC." Davidson stood, offered his hand. Strong grip, calloused fingers. "Impressive work this morning, Lieutenant. We've been watching you for 2 years. Today confirmed what we already knew, which is that you're the best close-quarters combat specialist in the United States military." Davidson opened a folder, slid photographs across the desk. 6 months ago, a hostage rescue operation went wrong. Ship-based raid, tight corridors, armed hostiles. 3 SEALs dead because hand-to-hand engagement failed. We reviewed footage, identified systemic problems with current CQB curriculum. Kira studied the photographs. A cargo ship, bullet holes in bulkheads, blood on steel floors. Your father developed a system, Davidson continued, called it Ghost Protocol. 7 principles: violence of action, surgical precision, zero hesitation, redirect force exploit, momentum, controlled aggression, emotional detachment. He submitted it to JSOC in January 1991. We approved it in March, but he did in February. Never got to teach it operationally. I know about Ghost Protocol, Kira said quietly. Master Chief Hargrave showed me the original manual last night. Davidson and Cross exchanged glances. Then you know it was designed specifically for confined space operations, Davidson said. Ship corridors, building interiors, anywhere size and strength become liabilities instead of assets. Your father theorized that smaller, faster operators using proper technique would outperform larger, stronger operators in these environments. He was right, Kira said. Prove it. Davidson slid another document across the desk. We have a situation developing. High-value target cargo ship, international waters, 28 days from now. I need a 12-man team trained in Ghost Protocol, trained by you, and I need them ready to execute a perfect ship raid with 0 casualties. 28 days isn't enough time. It's the time we have. Davidson stood. Lieutenant, 3 men died because we're still teaching CQB techniques from the 1980s. Your father saw the future of close quarters combat, and we ignored him. I'm not making that mistake twice. Train these men. Make them into what your father envisioned, or more men will die. Kira looked at Cross. Who are the 12 men? Cross's expression tightened. That's the complicated part. Chief Briggs volunteered to lead the team. The man whose arm I broke this morning. His arm will heal in 3 weeks, and he specifically requested assignment to your training program. Said he needed to understand what happened to him. Cross leaned forward. Lieutenant, I won't lie to you. This team won't be friendly. Some will be hostile. They'll test you, challenge you, try to prove you wrong at every opportunity. But they're the best operators we have. If anyone can learn Ghost Protocol in 28 days, it's them. When do we start? Tomorrow. 0600 hours, Kill House facility. 11 other SEALs will be waiting. Davidson headed toward the door, paused. Lieutenant, your father changed close quarters combat theory, but never got to prove it operationally. You have one chance to validate his life's work. Don't waste it. He left. Kira remained standing, staring at the photographs of dead SEALs on a blood-stained ship. Cross spoke quietly. You can decline this assignment. No one would blame you. The odds of success are low. The risk of catastrophic failure is high. And if it goes wrong, you'll carry that weight forever. My father carried that weight, Kira said. Died carrying it. The least I can do is pick it up. He'd be proud of you. Or disappointed I'm repeating his mistakes. Kira turned toward the door. Either way, I'll find out in 28 days. The Kill House facility at Naval Base Coronado occupied a converted warehouse near the waterfront. Inside, modular walls created a maze of corridors, rooms, and stairwells that could be reconfigured to simulate any environment from urban apartments to ship interiors. The air smelled like concrete dust and gun oil and the accumulated sweat of 10,000 training runs. Kira arrived at 0545 hours, 15 minutes early. Wanted to walk the space, understand the layout, prepare for what was coming. She found Master Chief Hargrave already there setting up equipment. Couldn't sleep either, she asked. Haven't slept well since 1991. Hargrave said, Your father used to say sleep was for people without nightmares. He meant it as a joke, but it turned out to be prophetic. What happened in Al-Kafji? The real story, not the after-action report. Hargrave stopped working, sat heavily on an equipment crate. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stared at his hands like they held answers. We were clearing a shipping facility, he finally said. Intel said it was lightly defended. Intel was wrong. 8 enemy fighters waiting in ambush. We walked right into it. Your father was point man. He saw the trap half a second before it closed. Hargrave's voice went distant, remembering. What he did next, I've never seen anything like it before or since. He didn't retreat, didn't call for backup, just moved forward into the kill zone. 3 minutes later, 8 enemies down, all hand to hand. He used pipes as weapons, used their own momentum against them, turned that engineering room into a demonstration of everything he'd been teaching us. But he got shot 3 times, once in the leg, twice in the chest, kept fighting until the last enemy was down. Then he secured the exit route, made sure we could escape. By the time we got him to cover, he'd lost too much blood. Died in my arms, asking me to watch over his daughter. Kira sat beside him. You've been watching over me for 33 years, even when I didn't know it. I pulled strings to get your academy application approved, Hargrave admitted. Made calls when you applied for CIA contractor work. Sent your records to JSOC when I heard they were looking for CQB specialists. Your entire career I've been in the background opening doors. Why? Because I owed your father my life, and because I believed you could finish what he started. Hargrave looked at her. But now I'm terrified I pushed you into something that'll get you killed, just like him. Master Chief, I'm not my father. I won't make his mistakes. What makes you think he made mistakes? He went in alone, Kira said. Took on 8 enemies without backup. That's not tactical brilliance. That's suicide with side of heroism. He saved 8 men and left behind a wife and daughter. Kira stood. I don't plan to die heroically, Master Chief. I plan to live boringly. Teach these techniques, complete the mission, go home. No medals, no legends, just effective work. Hargrave smiled, tired and sad. You sound exactly like him. He always said the best operators are the ones nobody remembers because they did their job so well, nothing went wrong. Voices outside, multiple footsteps approaching. Here we go, Hargrave said. Remember, these men are going to test you. Don't let them see doubt. I don't have doubt. I have certainty. Good, hold on to that. The door opened. 12 Navy SEALs entered, led by Chief Colton Briggs with his right arm in a cast and sling. The others ranged from mid-20s to early 40s, all carrying the hard-edged confidence of men who had survived multiple combat deployments. Their body language was unified, arms crossed expressions, skeptical energy, hostile. Lieutenant Owen Dalton was among them. The youngest, the one who had questioned Briggs yesterday. He met Kira's eyes, briefly nodded, fractionally. An ally, maybe, or at least not an enemy. Briggs stepped forward. His face was pale, whether from pain or anger was unclear. Lieutenant Brennan, Chief Briggs, reporting for training as ordered. How's your arm, Chief? Broken, like you knew it would be. Clean fracture. Should heal in 3 weeks. You'll have full mobility back in 5. You sound very confident about that. I've broken a lot of arms, Kira said flatly. I know the recovery timeline. A ripple of reaction through the group. Not quite laughter, more like nervous energy seeking release. Kira stepped to the center of the training space. Gentlemen, we have 28 days to prepare you for a ship-based hostage rescue. The environment will be confined spaces, tight corridors, limited visibility, multiple hostiles. Traditional CQB tactics rely on size strength and firepower. Those advantages disappear in confined spaces. You need something else. And you're going to teach us what exactly, Briggs asked. How to break arms. No, I'm going to teach you Ghost Protocol. The system my father developed for exactly this scenario. 7 principles that turn confined spaces from disadvantages into weapons. Your father, Briggs said slowly. Ghost Brennan, the legend who died 30 years ago and never got to prove his theories operationally. 33 years ago, and his theories are proven. I've used them 47 times in combat, all successful, 0 friendly casualties. Against terrorists and insurgents, not trained military opponents. Against anyone who tried to kill me in close quarters. Kira's voice hardened. Chief, you're welcome to believe I'm unqualified. You're welcome to resist training. But if you do, you'll get men killed in 28 days. Your choice. Silence. The other SEALs watched Briggs, waiting to see how he'd respond. He was the ranking operator. His reaction would set the tone for everyone. Briggs studied her for a long moment, then something shifted in his expression. Not acceptance, not quite respect, but maybe the beginning of openness. What's the first principle, he asked. Violence of action, Kira said, but not the kind you're thinking. Not rage or aggression, decisive movement without hesitation. When you commit to a technique, you commit completely. Half measures get you killed. Show us. Kira gestured to the nearest SEAL, a massive operator named Torres, 6'4", 250 neck like a tree trunk. Attack me. Torres glanced at Briggs, who nodded. Torres moved fast for his size, throwing a straight right punch designed to test her reaction speed. Kira didn't block or dodge. She moved into the attack, redirecting the punch past her head with minimal contact, stepping inside his reach, locking his elbow, rotating her body. Torres was suddenly airborne, flipping over her hip, landing hard on the mat. She released him immediately, stepped back. Violence of action. I didn't hesitate, didn't think, just moved with complete commitment. That's principle one. Torres stood slowly, rubbing his shoulder. Jesus, that felt like getting hit by a car. You hit yourself, Kira corrected. I just redirected your momentum. That's principle four, exploit momentum. Turn their energy against them. She spent the next 2 hours demonstrating each principle with different volunteers. By mid-morning, every SEAL had been thrown, locked, or controlled at least once. Some were starting to understand. Others remained skeptical. Briggs watched everything with intense focus, occasionally asking questions, never volunteering to participate. His broken arm was obviously causing pain, but he refused to leave. At 1100 hours, Kira called a break. The SEALs dispersed to water stations, talking in low voices. Dalton approached her quietly. Ma'am, that was incredible. I've never seen techniques like that. Your father taught similar methods, Kira said. He was a Marine raider, hand-to-hand specialist. Dalton blinked, surprised. How did you know that? I read everyone's files, know your operators, understand what they bring to training. She paused. Your father and mine probably crossed paths. Different services, but same mission. They would have understood each other. My father died in Fallujah, 2004. I'm sorry. Don't be. He died doing what he believed in. Dalton lowered his voice. Ma'am, most of these guys are good men, but they're scared. The last hostage rescue went bad. 3 operators dead. Everyone's thinking about that, wondering if they're next. Then I need to teach them how not to be next. Some of them don't want to learn from a woman. Then they'll die ignorant, Kira said simply. I can't force respect. I can only demonstrate competence. If that's not enough, nothing will be said. Dalton nodded, returned to the group. Hargrave appeared at Kira's elbow. You're winning them over, slowly, but Briggs is the key. If he commits, the others follow. And if he doesn't, then you have 11 men instead of 12, and the mission gets harder. Kira watched Briggs across the room, saw him flexing his broken arm, testing the pain threshold, saw determination in his posture despite the injury. He'll commit, she said, not because he believes in me, because he believes in himself. And right now his ego is wounded worse than his arm. He needs to prove yesterday was a fluke. Was it? No, but I'll let him try. Sometimes people need to fail twice before they're ready to learn. The afternoon session focused on practical application. Kira reconfigured the kill house into a ship interior, narrow corridors, low ceilings, multiple compartments connected by steep ladders and tight hatches. Confined space combat is about spatial awareness, she explained. You need to know exactly where you are, where the enemy is, and how to use the environment as a weapon. Walls become leverage points, corners become cover. Overhead, pipes become weapons. She demonstrated by running a solo breach sequence, moving through 3 compartments in 15 seconds, neutralizing simulated enemies with techniques that use the ship's geometry. Wrist locks against bulkheads. Hip throws into ladders. Momentum redirects that slammed imaginary opponents into pipes. The SEALs watched in silence. Some were impressed. Others remained skeptical. Now you try, Kira said. 2-man teams. Breach and clear. I'll play hostile in each compartment. For the next 3 hours, pairs of SEALs attempted to clear the mock ship while Kira defended each space. Every team failed. Some she defeated with simple techniques. Others she trapped using environmental advantages. None made it past the second compartment. By 1700 hours, frustration was building. These were elite operators accustomed to success. Repeated failure was eating at their confidence. Briggs stepped forward. Ma'am, permission to try solo. Your arm is broken, Chief. I can use my left arm and my legs. Kira studied him. This was the test. The moment that would define whether he was here to learn or to prove her wrong. Go ahead, she said. Briggs entered the kill house. Kira positioned herself in the first compartment, waited. He came through the hatch, fast left hand, leading moving with practiced efficiency despite his injury. Saw Kira committed to a left hook. She redirected it easily, stepped inside his reach. But instead of completing the throw, she hesitated, gave him half a second to adjust. Briggs took it, shifted his weight, turned the redirect into a leg sweep. Kira went down, rolled, came up smoothly. Briggs was already moving, trying to press his size advantage in the confined space. They exchanged techniques for 30 seconds, Briggs using strength and speed, Kira using precision and timing. It looked almost like a dance, violent and controlled simultaneously. Finally, Kira found an opening. Locked Briggs's left wrist, rotated, put him face first against the bulkhead with his arm twisted behind his back. "Yield," she said quietly. "Yield." Briggs gasped. She released him. They stood in the narrow corridor, both breathing hard. "You let me get that leg sweep," Briggs said. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you needed to know you could adapt. That even with a broken arm, even against someone who beat you yesterday, you could still compete. Confidence matters in combat." Briggs was quiet for a moment. "You could have finished me in 5 seconds." "Yes. But you wanted me to last 30. I wanted you to learn. There's a difference between defeating someone and teaching someone." Briggs nodded slowly, something changing in his expression. Not quite respect yet, but recognition. Acknowledgement that she wasn't here to humiliate him. She was here to make him better. "What did I do wrong?" he asked. "You relied on size. In open space, that works. In confined space, it's a liability. You need to flow like water. Use the minimum force necessary. Save energy for when you really need it." "Show me." Kira spent the next 20 minutes working with Briggs one-on-one, demonstrating how to modify his natural fighting style for confined environments. The other SEALs gathered to watch, initially curious, then increasingly engaged. By the time they broke for the day, the energy had shifted. Not friendly, not trusting, but no longer openly hostile, more like cautious respect. The recognition that she knew something they didn't, and that knowledge might keep them alive. As the team filed out, Dalton lingered. "Ma'am, that was impressive. The way you handled Briggs. Most instructors would have crushed him to prove dominance." "Dominance doesn't teach," Kira said. "Humility teaches. And Briggs is humble now." His arm reminded him he's not invincible. Now he's ready to learn. "What about the others?" "They're watching Briggs. If he commits, they commit. Give it 3 more days." Dalton left. Kira remained in the kill house, reviewing the day's training, making mental notes about each operator's strengths and weaknesses. Hargrave appeared in the doorway. "Day 1 complete. How do you feel?" "Exhausted. But successful." "Maybe. Too early to tell." Hargrave entered, handed her a bottle of water. "Your father used to do the same thing. Stay late, review every detail, optimize for the next session. He believed teaching was an iterative process. Get 1% better each day. 1% better over 28 days is barely 30% improvement. 30% improvement in elite operators is the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure." Kira drank, grimaced at the lukewarm water. "Master Chief, what happened to my father's Medal of Honor, Commander Cross, said it's been sitting in an archive." "It has. Your mother moved to Oregon after his death, remarried. Changed addresses multiple times. Navy couldn't track her down for the formal presentation. Eventually, the medal went into storage." "Why didn't you track her down?" "You knew where we were." Hargrave was quiet for a long time. "I did. Sent letters. She never responded. I think she wanted a clean break. Your father died. She was pregnant and alone. She needed to move forward. Having his old teammate in her life was a reminder of everything she lost." "Did she hate him for deploying while she was pregnant?" "I don't know, but I know she loved him enough to make sure you knew him. Those training tapes, she could have thrown them away. Instead, she gave them to you. That's not hate. That's love trying to survive grief." Kira thought about her mother, who died from cancer 4 years ago, who spent her last weeks telling stories about Ghost, about their brief marriage, about his obsession with teaching perfect technique. "She told me he knew he might not come back," Kira said quietly. "That's why he made all those tapes. He was saying goodbye." "Your father wasn't afraid of death." He was afraid of not passing on what he'd learned. He believed knowledge should outlive the teacher, that techniques perfected over a lifetime shouldn't die with one person. Hargrave paused. He succeeded. His knowledge didn't die. It's standing right here, breathing, teaching, keeping him alive. They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by the training space where men learn to survive violence. I need to tell you something, Hargrave said finally. Something about the upcoming mission. Davidson didn't give you all the details. I assumed as much. The target is a cargo ship, but not just any cargo ship. It's the same class of vessel where your father died, same layout, same confined corridors. JSOC chose it specifically because Ghost Protocol was designed for that exact environment. They're testing whether his theories work. They're testing whether he was right. About everything. His entire life's work comes down to this one mission. No pressure then, Hargrave smiled grimly. Your father used to say pressure is just another word for clarity. When everything's on the line, you see what really matters. What really mattered to him? Keeping his teammates alive. Everything else was secondary. Kira gathered her gear, headed for the door, paused and looked back. Master Chief, if I fail this mission, if Ghost Protocol doesn't work, what happens to his legacy? It dies, completely. JSOC will bury it and go back to teaching traditional methods. And if it succeeds, then your father becomes required study for every special operations unit in the world. His techniques become doctrine. His name becomes immortal. He's already immortal, Kira said. I've made sure of that. She walked out into the California evening, the sun setting over the Pacific in bands of orange and purple. Somewhere out there, 27 days away, waited a ship full of hostages and armed enemies. A test of everything her father had taught her through magnetic tape and careful demonstration. She thought about Ghost Brennan, dead for 33 years, his voice still echoing through training spaces, his techniques still breaking arms and saving lives. Thought about whether she was truly his daughter or just someone who watched his videos and memorized movements. The answer she knew would come in 27 days, on a ship, in confined corridors, where size didn't matter and technique was everything, where she would either prove her father was a genius or reveal him as a dreamer who died before his theories faced reality. Either way, she would know, and so would the world. The second week began with resistance turning into grudging acceptance. Briggs returned to training with his arm still casted, but his attitude changed. He no longer challenged every instruction. Instead, he watched, learned, asked questions that showed he was thinking tactically. The other operators followed his lead. If the man whose arm got broken was willing to learn from the woman who broke it, then maybe there was something worth learning. Kira intensified training. Longer days, harder scenarios, constant repetition until techniques became instinctive. She pushed them to exhaustion, then pushed further because missions don't wait for operators to be rested. On day 9, something unexpected happened. Kira arrived at the kill house at 05:30 to find someone had sabotaged the training equipment. A practice knife meant to be dulled for safety had been filed razor sharp. Someone could have been seriously injured or killed. She reported it to Hargrave, who immediately launched an investigation. But no evidence, no witnesses, just the undeniable fact that someone on the team wanted training to fail. On day 10, during a rappelling drill, one of the operators nearly fell 15 feet when his harness mysteriously loosened. Kira caught him at the last second, dislocating her own shoulder in the process. The medic wanted her to stand down. She refused, popped the shoulder back into place, and continued training with her left arm, only demonstrating that Ghost Protocol worked even when injured. But the message was clear. Someone was actively sabotaging training, and they were getting bolder. Hargrave pulled Kira aside after that incident. This is serious. Someone wants you to fail badly enough to risk lives. Who? I have suspicions, but no proof. He lowered his voice. I reviewed security footage from the equipment room. Caught someone tampering with gear at 300 hours 3 days ago. Who? I need to be sure before I make accusations. But Kira, watch your back. Whoever this is, they're not just resisting training. They're trying to end it. That night, Kira sat in her quarters reviewing footage of each training session, studying body language, looking for tells. who looked away during safety briefings, who seemed too eager to volunteer for dangerous drills, who had the technical knowledge to sabotage equipment correctly. The answer was uncomfortable, but increasingly obvious. She would deal with it when the time was right. For now, she needed these men focused on the mission. Sabotage was a distraction, a test of her resolve. She wouldn't let it derail 28 days of work. Day 14 brought a breakthrough. Kira had reconfigured the kill house to exactly match the dimensions of the target cargo ship based on blueprints Davidson had provided. Every corridor, every ear hatch, every compartment was now an exact replica. "This is your operational environment," she told the team. "For the next 2 weeks you live here, eat here, sleep here, until moving through these corridors becomes as natural as walking." And she divided them into 4 three-man teams. Each team would run breach drills continuously, rotating through different scenarios, different hostage positions, different enemy numbers. By day 16, they were starting to flow, moving through tight spaces with efficiency that would have been impossible 2 weeks ago, using techniques that seemed counterintuitive, but worked because physics and leverage didn't care about size. Briggs's arm was healing. He could use it for light work now, and his left-handed technique had become sharp enough that he was nearly as dangerous one-handed as he had been with both. On day 17, Dalton approached Kira after training. "Ma'am, I need to tell you something about the sabotage." "I know who it is," Kira said quietly. "You do. I've known since day 10. The question is whether he's ready to stop or if I need to force the issue." "How did you know?" "Because saboteurs always make the same mistake. They watch their own work too closely, checking to see if it's been discovered. Your eyes always go to what you're hiding. What are you going to do?" "Nothing yet. He needs to reach his breaking point naturally, otherwise the lesson won't stick." Dalton looked uncertain. "Ma'am, someone could get hurt." "Someone already did. Me. But I controlled the outcome. I'll continue controlling outcomes until he's ready to learn." She met his eyes. "Trust me, Lieutenant. I know what I'm doing." On day 18, Hargrave pulled Kira aside with information that changed everything. "The mission timeline just accelerated," he said grimly. "JSOC moved the operation up. We launch in 10 days, not 14. We're not ready." "I know, but the target window is closing. High-value target is moving the ship earlier than expected. It's now or never." Kira felt cold certainty settle into her chest. 10 days, and we still have a saboteur in the team. "Do you know who?" "Yes." "Then remove him. Request a replacement." "No, he needs to be part of this. Because when the mission succeeds, he needs to see that everything he tried to stop was exactly what would save his life." Hargrave stared at her. "That's a hell of a risk." "My father took risks. He died for them. But his techniques survived because he believed in them absolutely. I have the same belief. Ghost Protocol works. Even with a saboteur. Even with 10 days. Even with everything going wrong, it still works. Your father's certainty got him killed. His certainty saved 8 men, including you. Don't forget that." Hargrave said nothing, just nodded slowly and walked away. Kira stood alone in the training space and thought about risk, about certainty, about fathers and daughters and legacies built on magnetic tape and bone-deep conviction. 10 days until the mission. 10 days to prove everything. She pulled out her phone, found a video from December 1990. Her father's voice calm and certain. "If you're watching this before a mission, remember confidence comes from preparation. And you've prepared your entire life. Trust your training. Trust your instincts. Trust that I taught you right." Ghost's image flickered on the small screen, forever young, forever certain, forever teaching. "Go be great, Kira. Make them remember our name." She closed the phone, squared her shoulders, and walked back into the kill house where 12 men waited to learn how to survive. 10 days. It would have to be enough. Day 19 began with tension thick enough to taste. The accelerated timeline had stripped away any remaining comfort. 10 days until mission launch. 10 days to perfect techniques that normally required months. 10 days to transform 12 skeptical operators into a Ghost Protocol assault team. Kira stood in the center of the kill house at 0530 waiting. The team filtered in one by one, faces hard movements, tense. They knew something had changed, could feel it in the air like electricity before a storm. When all 12 had assembled, she spoke. Timelines accelerated. We launch in 10 days. That means training intensity doubles starting now. No more half measures, no more learning curves. You either execute perfectly or you fail. And failure in 10 days means dead hostages and dead teammates. Briggs stepped forward, his casted arm now reduced to a simple brace. Ma'am, we're not ready for a real-world op. I know. Then why are we launching? Because the target won't wait. High-value enemy combatant is moving his operation. We hit the ship in 10 days, or we lose him for months, maybe years. The team exchanged glances. This was real now, not theoretical training, actual lives on the line. So we adapt, Kira continued. My father had a saying, perfect practice makes perfect. We're going to run this ship raid 200 times in the next 10 days. Until your body knows every movement without conscious thought. Until you can clear these corridors blindfolded. Until Ghost Protocol isn't something you do, it's something you are. She gestured to the mock ship interior. First run starts now. 3-man teams, breach and clear, simulated hostiles in every compartment. I want sub 3-minute total clearance. Go. For the next 8 hours, the teams ran continuous drills. Breach, clear, reset, breach, clear, reset, over and over until movements became mechanical, until technique replaced thought, until exhaustion stripped away everything except pure instinct. By 1400 hours, they had run the course 47 times. Some successful, many failures, but each iteration showed improvement. Marginal gains compounding into real capability. During a water break, Kira noticed Briggs testing his arm, flexing fingers, rotating the wrist. The cast was gone now, just tape and determination holding the bone together. How's the arm, Chief? Functional, won't be throwing any punches, but I can shoot and move. Can you execute wrist locks? Briggs demonstrated on himself, carefully testing the range of motion. With my left hand, yes. Right hand is still weak. Then you'll use your left. Ghost Protocol doesn't require strength, just precision. Your father designed these techniques for injured operators. He designed them for anyone who might face a larger opponent. Injury just makes you smaller. The physics still work. Briggs nodded slowly. I owe you an apology. For what? The sabotage, the filed knife, the loosened repelling harness. His voice was flat, emotionless. That was me. The words hung in the air. The other SEALs within earshot went quiet, staring. Kira showed no reaction. I know. Briggs blinked. You knew. Since day 10, your eyes kept checking the equipment. Classic tell. Why didn't you report me, have me removed from the team? Because you needed to reach this moment on your own terms. If I'd forced it, you'd have resented the lesson instead of learning from it. I could have gotten someone killed. You got me injured, dislocated shoulder, but I controlled the outcome because I saw it coming. Just like I saw you coming yesterday morning when you tried to break my arm. Briggs stared at her, something like awe and horror mixing in his expression. You've been 3 steps ahead this entire time. That's what Ghost Protocol teaches. See the attack before it forms. Respond before your opponent commits. Stay calm when everyone else panics. I'm sorry, Briggs said, and this time emotion cracked through. I was scared. Scared that you'd prove everything I knew was obsolete. Scared that a woman half my size could do my job better than me. Scared that I'd become irrelevant. You're not obsolete, Chief. You're evolving. That's harder. Takes more courage. Kira's voice softened slightly. My father wrote something in his manual. He said the strongest warriors aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up and admit they fell. She extended her hand. We good. Briggs shook it. We're good. And ma'am, I'm all in now. Whatever you need for this mission, I'm yours. I need you to be the leader these men follow. Because when we're on that ship, rank doesn't matter. Trust matters, and they trust you. Briggs straightened, something shifting in his posture. The last vestiges of resistance falling away, replaced by commitment. The afternoon session had different energy. Briggs was no longer subtly undermining drills. Instead, he pushed harder than anyone, demanded perfection from himself, and others transformed from saboteur to believer. The team responded. If Briggs was all in, they were all in. By day 21, they were hitting consistent sub-3-minute clearance times. By day 23, they could run the course in darkness with only night vision. By day 25, they executed a perfect run with simulated casualties adapting on the fly when one team member went down. On day 26, Davidson returned with final mission briefing. The team assembled in a secure briefing room. Davidson stood at a podium with satellite imagery on screens behind him. Gentlemen, Lieutenant Brennan, this is your target, MV Pacific Star. Container ship Panamanian Registry currently in international waters 38 miles off San Diego. Intelligence confirms 8 American crew members are being held hostage by armed pirates. At least 6 hostiles, possibly more. He clicked to internal schematics. Ship layout matches your training environment exactly. You'll fast rope onto the deck at Aero 5:30 hours in 3 days. Dark insertion, no moon. You'll have 3 hours to breach clear and secure before dawn gives away your position. Rules of engagement, Briggs asked. Hostiles are armed and have killed before. You're authorized to use lethal force, but the priority is hostage safety. We want 0 civilian casualties. That's non-negotiable. What about operator casualties? Another SEAL asked. Davidson's face hardened. Also non-negotiable. You're using Ghost Protocol specifically because it's designed to minimize friendly casualties. Lieutenant Brennan's father died proving these techniques work. Don't make his sacrifice meaningless by getting yourselves killed. He looked directly at Kira. Lieutenant, you'll be on site, but in advisory capacity only. You coordinate from the assault boat monitor, progress provide real-time tactical guidance. You don't board the ship. Sir, with respect, I should lead the entry team. You're not a SEAL. I can't authorize you to participate in direct action. My father wasn't a SEAL when he went into that kill box in Al-Kafji. He was a teacher who became a warrior when the mission required it. Davidson and Cross exchanged glances, some unspoken communication passing between them. There's something you should know, Cross said quietly. Your father's Medal of Honor has been sitting in a Navy archive for 33 years. We've arranged to present it to you, but not before the mission. After, when you've proven his techniques work operationally, you're making his legacy conditional on mission success. No, we're giving you the chance to validate his life's work before accepting his highest honor. Seemed appropriate. Kira felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. They were testing her, testing Ghost, testing everything. I'll validate it, she said simply. 3 days, 0 casualties, perfect execution. That's a bold promise. My father made bold promises, then kept them. Watch me do the same. Day 27 was final preparations. Equipment checks, communications tests, contingency planning for every scenario they could imagine. The team moved with quiet efficiency, the nervous energy of combat operations replacing the casual confidence of training. That night, Hargrave found Kira in the kill house running solo drills in the darkness. You should be resting, he said. Can't rest. Keep thinking about everything that could go wrong. Your father did the same thing before Al-Kafji. Stayed up all night reviewing tactics. I told him to sleep. He said sleep was for people who didn't care enough. Kira stopped moving, stood in the center of the mock corridor. Master Chief, what if I'm wrong? What if Ghost Protocol fails? What if these men die because I taught them techniques that only work in theory? Then you'll have failed completely, and you'll carry that weight for the rest of your life, just like I've carried the weight of your father's death for 33 years. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be honest. Hargrave stepped closer. But here's the other truth. I've watched you train for 27 days. Watch these men transform from skeptics into believers. Watch techniques I could never master become second nature to them because you taught better than I ever could. And I've reached a conclusion, which is, you're not your father, you're better, because you learned from his successes and his mistakes. You have his knowledge without his blind spots, his technique without his recklessness. You're what he would have become if he'd lived another 30 years. He died saving his team. Yes, and you're going to keep your team alive. That's the difference. He was willing to die for his beliefs. You're determined to live for them. That makes you more dangerous and more effective. Kira was quiet for a long moment. There's something I need to know about Al-Kafji, about how he really died. Hargrave's expression went distant. I told you the basic facts. Tell me the truth. The full truth. A long silence. Then Hargrave sat heavily on the floor back against the bulkhead. Kira sat beside him. Your father knew it was a trap, Hargrave said finally. Saw the setup before we entered, but we were already committed. 8 of us in a kill zone with nowhere to go. He could have called for extraction, should have called for extraction. But 8 enemy fighters meant 8 of us would likely die in a fighting retreat. So he went in alone. He told us to hold position, said he'd clear the immediate threat and we'd push through. We thought he meant suppressive fire, maybe grenades. Instead, he dropped his rifle, pulled a combat knife, and walked into that engine room like he was going to work. Hargrave's voice cracked slightly. 3 minutes. That's how long it took. We heard impacts, crashes, one scream that got cut off. Then silence. Then your father's voice on radio, clear, move now. We pushed through and found 8 enemies down, all hand to hand. Your father standing in the center with 3 bullets in him, still on his feet, still covering our exit. How long did he survive after that? 4 minutes. We got him to cover, tried to stop the bleeding. But he'd taken 2 rounds through the chest, lungs filling with blood. He knew he was dying. What were his last words? Hargrave closed his eyes. He said, tell my daughter I'm sorry I won't meet her, but tell her I'm still teaching her. The tapes, make sure she gets the tapes. Then he grabbed my vest and said, keep them alive, Wyatt. That's the mission. Always keep them alive. Then he was gone. Tears tracked down Hargrave's weathered face. I've spent 33 years trying to keep that promise. Keep operators alive. Teach what he taught. But I could never do it as well as him. Until you showed up and did it better than both of us. Wait, Kira put her hand on his shoulder. He kept you alive. You kept me alive, even when I didn't know you were watching. Now I keep these 12 men alive. That's how legacies work. They pass forward. They compound. They grow. Do you forgive me for not saving him? Master Chief, you didn't need saving. He saved you. That was his choice, his gift. Honor it by helping me save these men tomorrow. Hargrave nodded, wiped his face. What do you need from me? Be on that assault boat. Guide me when I miss something. And if this goes wrong, if I get these men killed, make sure people know I tried. That Ghost protocol had a fair test. That my father's legacy got the chance it deserved. It won't go wrong. How can you be sure? Because you're Ghost Brennan's daughter, and he never failed a mission he cared about. Neither will you. They sat in silence for a few more minutes, then walked out of the kill house into the California night. Tomorrow was day 28, mission day. The day everything either proved true or fell apart. The day Kira would either validate 33 years of belief or destroy a legend with failure. She thought about her father young and certain recording videos for a daughter he'd never meet. Thought about his voice forever frozen at 34. Forever teaching, forever promising that his techniques would keep her safe. Tomorrow she'd prove whether that promise was truth or hope. Tomorrow the ghost would speak through her one final time, and the world would listen. The MH-60 Seahawk lifted off from Naval Base Coronado at 0445 hours under a moonless sky. 12 SEALs and 1 instructor crammed into the cargo bay, faces painted black night vision gear, down weapons loaded and chambered. The ocean below was invisible in the darkness, just the sensation of movement and the rhythmic thump of rotors. Kira sat near the door watching the team. They were quiet, focused, running through mental rehearsals of the mission. Briggs checked his gear for the 5th time. Dalton breathed slowly, deliberately, controlling adrenaline. The others showed their own pre-combat rituals: prayer, meditation, silence. Hargrave sat beside Kira wearing full tactical gear, despite being there only as observer. His face was carved from stone expression, unreadable. Through the headset, the pilot's voice. 15 minutes to target. Kira keyed her radio. Final check. Team Alpha status. Alpha ready, Briggs responded. Bravo ready. Charlie ready. Delta ready. 4 3-man teams, 47 training runs, 217 hours of instruction, 28 days of transformation from skeptics to believers. Now the test. The assault boat appeared below a rigid hull inflatable running dark and fast. The helicopter descended, hovering low over the water. The SEALs fast roped down in pairs, moving with practiced efficiency. 12 men on the boat in 40 seconds. Then Kira, then Hargrave. The helicopter pulled away, disappearing into darkness. The boat commander, a grizzled chief petty officer named Kowalski, nodded to Kira. Target is 3 miles east. Thermal imaging shows 8 hostiles on deck, unknown number below. Hostages confirmed in midship compartment. Weather, calm seas, no wind, perfect insertion conditions. Then let's go. The boat accelerated, hydroplaning across black water. The target vessel appeared on thermal, a massive container ship lit by a few deck lights, riding low and heavy. Kira studied the thermal feed. 8 hostiles visible on deck, armed but not alert, smoking, talking casual. They weren't expecting an assault. 2 minutes, Kowalski said. Kira turned to the team. Remember your training, trust your technique, stay calm, and come back alive, all of you. Briggs stepped forward, extended his left hand. She took it. We got this, ma'am. Your father trained you. You trained us. Now we prove it works. The boat pulled alongside the ship. Grappling hooks deployed silently, climbing ropes secured. The first team began ascending the hull in darkness. Then chaos erupted. A hostile on deck spotted movement, shouted, alarm, raised weapon. The element of surprise evaporated in an instant. Contact! Dalton's voice over radio. They know we're here. Gunfire. Muzzle flashes on deck. The carefully planned silent insertion became a firefight. Alpha team suppress, Briggs ordered. Bravo breach starboard. Charlie port side Delta. With me, direct assault. The teams moved, not panicking, not freezing, executing alternative plans they had drilled for weeks. Kira watched thermal feeds tracking 12 friendly signatures against 8 hostiles. Alpha 2 Tangos, northeast corner. Got them. Suppressed weapons spat short bursts. 2 thermal signatures dropped. Bravo breaching midship compartment. Charlie encountering resistance. Delta engaged on deck. The operation was supposed to be surgical, clean, silent. Instead, it was fast, violent, loud. Everything Ghost Protocol was designed to avoid, but the technique still worked. Kira watched as SEALs used confined corridors to their advantage, turned corners into cover, used bulkheads for leverage, executed wrist locks against pipes, redirected hostile momentum into machinery. Ghost Protocol in action. Adapted, modified, but fundamentally sound. Hostages located. Dalton's voice. Midship compartment, 8 civilians, all alive. Secure them. Charlie team encountering heavy resistance engine room. That was the danger zone, where Ghost died, where everything could go wrong. I'm going in, Kira said, grabbing gear. Negative. Hargrave grabbed her arm. You're not authorized for direct action. My father died in an engine room. I'm not letting history repeat. She was over the rail before Hargrave could stop her, climbing the hull with speed born from desperation. Hit the deck, saw Briggs directing fire move past him toward the superstructure. Brennan, what the hell are you doing? Briggs shouted. Finishing this. She descended into the ship interior. The corridors were exactly like training. Same width, same overhead pipes, same confined geometry. But this was real. Live ammunition. Real enemies. Real consequences. She followed the sound of gunfire to the engine room hatch. Heard Charlie team pinned down inside 3 SEALs against unknown hostiles. The tactical choice was to wait for backup, call for support, play it safe. Ghost hadn't played it safe. Kira dropped through the hatch. The engine room was hell. Narrow catwalks between massive machinery, steam and heat and noise. 3 SEALs pinned behind equipment, taking fire from 3 hostiles positioned in elevated positions. Kira assessed instantly. Hostiles had high ground and cover. SEALs were trapped in low ground with limited movement. Classic kill box. She moved before thinking. Pure Ghost Protocol. Violence of action without hesitation. First hostile never saw her coming. She was behind him in 4 seconds, wrist lock against catwalk railing, controlled break, disarm down. Second hostile turned, bringing weapon up. Kira closed distance, used overhead pipe as lever hip throw that sent him over the railing into machinery below. Hard impact. Not dead, but out of the fight. Third hostile had clear shot. Kira was exposed. Nowhere to hide. The moment stretched. She saw his finger tighten on trigger. Then Briggs appeared behind him, executed perfect rear wrist lock, the same technique Kira had demonstrated day one. The hostile went down, weapon clattering away. Silence. The engine room went quiet except for machinery noise. Charlie team stared at her. Briggs stared at her. Clear, Kira said simply. Jesus Christ, ma'am, one of the Charlie operators said. That was insane. That was Ghost Protocol. Now finish clearing this ship. They moved out. Kira followed, adrenaline fading, clarity returning. The mission took 11 minutes total. 8 hostiles neutralized, 3 wounded, 5 captured alive. 8 hostages secured, all unharmed. 0 friendly casualties. Perfect execution after catastrophic compromise. As dawn broke over the Pacific, the team assembled on deck. Hostages were being loaded onto the assault boat. Captured hostiles zip-tied and guarded. The massive container ship sat quiet now, morning light revealing rust and wear on its hull. Commander Cross's voice came over radio. Team lead report. Briggs keyed his mic. Mission success, sir. All hostages secure. 0 friendly casualties. 8 hostile combatants neutralized. Outstanding work. Extraction inbound ETA 12 minutes. Briggs looked at Kira. Ma'am, you weren't supposed to be here. I know. You could have been killed. So could you. So could any of us. That's what makes it real. Dalton approached, grinning despite exhaustion. Ma'am, that engine room sequence. That was exactly like your father in the videos. Same movements, same timing. It worked. It saved our lives. Kira looked around at the 12 SEALs. Tired, dirty, uninjured, alive. Mission success. Ghost Protocol validated. Your father would be proud, Hargrave said, appearing at her shoulder. He had stayed on the assault boat but watched everything through cameras. That was textbook. Even when it went wrong, the fundamentals kept everyone alive. It worked because they believed, because Briggs believed, because 28 days of training became 28 days of proof. No, Hargrave said quietly. It worked because you're a better teacher than your father ever was. He could execute. You can teach others to execute. That's a rare gift. The extraction helicopter appeared on the horizon. 6 hours later, back at Naval Base Coronado, the team assembled in the same auditorium where this had started 28 days ago. But this time it wasn't 300 people. Just the 12 operators, Kira, Hargrave, Cross, and Davidson. And a wooden case on a small table at the front of the room. Cross stood at the podium. Gentlemen, Lieutenant Brennan, congratulations on a successful mission. 0 casualties, all hostages, recovered, hostile force neutralized. This is the outcome Ghost Protocol was designed to achieve. And today you proved it works. He gestured to Davidson, who opened the wooden case. Inside on blue velvet lay a Medal of Honor, tarnished slightly from 33 years in storage but still gleaming. Master Chief Richard Ghost Brennan was awarded this medal posthumously in March 1991 for extraordinary heroism in combat, Cross said. He died saving 8 men using techniques that the military ignored for 3 decades. Today, his daughter used those same techniques to save 12 men and 8 civilians. He lifted the medal. Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan, please step forward. Kira walked to the podium, suddenly aware this was real. Not theoretical, not training, real. Your father never got to see you, Cross continued. Never got to hold you, teach you in person, watch you grow. But through 847 hours of video, he taught you anyway. Made you into the warrior he never got to be. And today you completed his mission. You validated his life's work. You proved that Richard Ghost Brennan was right about everything. Cross placed the medal around her neck. The weight was surprising, heavy, like responsibility made physical. This belongs to him, Kira said quietly. Not to me. It belongs to both of you, Cross said. He earned it through sacrifice. You earned it through dedication. Together you've changed how special operations forces think about close quarters combat. Ghost Protocol is now required training for all SEAL teams. Your father's techniques will save lives for generations. The room was silent. Then Briggs stood, started clapping. The others followed. 12 men who had been skeptics 28 days ago now, standing in respect. Hargrave approached, his face wet with tears he didn't bother hiding. Ghost would be so proud, not of the medal, of you, of what you've become. I became what he made me. No, you became what he dreamed you could be. There's a difference, you go. The ceremony broke up. SEALs filed out exhausted, ready to sleep for days. Cross and Davison departed with promises of formal commendations and future training requests. Finally, just Kira and Hargrave remained in the empty auditorium. "What happens now?" Kira asked. "Now you teach, full-time." "The Navy wants Ghost Protocol implemented across all special operations. You'll train instructors who train operators. Your father's legacy multiplies exponentially. And you, I retire in 6 months, finally." 40 years was enough. Hargrave smiled. "But I'll retire knowing I kept my promise. Watched over Ghost's daughter. Helped her finish what he started." "That's a good way to end a career." They walked outside together. The California morning was bright and clear, the Pacific stretching endless beyond the base. Kira touched the metal, felt its weight against her chest. "I wish he could see this," she said quietly. "He can," Hargrave said. "Wherever he is, whatever comes after, he knows, and he's proud." 6 months later, Kira stood in the same training facility where she'd broken Briggs's arm. But this time she wasn't demonstrating. She was teaching instructors who would teach thousands of operators over decades. The wall behind her held two photographs, side by side. Same stance, same techniques, 33 years apart. Master Chief Richard Ghost Brennan, 990, teaching CQB. Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan, 2D24, teaching the same techniques to a new generation. The legacy unbroken, the knowledge passed forward, the ghost alive in every operator who learned his methods. Before class started, Kira played a video, the last one her father recorded. December 23, 1990, 2 days before Christmas, 4 weeks before deployment. His voice calm and certain. "Kira, if you're watching this, you've probably completed your first real mission. If you survived, it's because the techniques work. If you didn't survive well, at least you died doing something that mattered. Either way, I'm proud of you. Not because of what you accomplished, because of who you chose to become. A warrior, a teacher, someone who keeps others alive. That's the highest calling there is. Never forget that. Violence of action, surgical precision, zero hesitation. And always, always bring your people home. That's the mission, the only mission that really matters." The video ended. Kira turned to her class of 30 instructors. "That's Ghost Protocol, not just techniques, philosophy. The understanding that our job isn't to be the strongest or the fastest or the most deadly. Our job is to bring people home, alive, uninjured. Mission complete. That's what my father died proving. That's what we live proving, every single day." She stepped onto the training mat. "Now let me show you how." And the ghost taught again. Through his daughter, through her students, through every operator who learned that size didn't matter. Strength faded, ego killed, but technique endured. Forever. The standing ovation in that auditorium 28 days ago had been loud and genuine, but it had been temporary, a moment of respect that would fade. This was permanent. This was legacy. Ghost Brennan's name would echo through training facilities for generations. His techniques would save lives he'd never meet. His daughter would teach his methods until they became foundational, essential, immortal. He had died in an engine room in Al-Khafji, alone, bleeding, victorious. But his spirit lived on. In every wrist lock, every hip throw, every operator who learned that calm beats anger, that technique beats strength, that the warrior who protects others is greater than the warrior who seeks glory. Kira touched her father's dog tags worn under her uniform, made a promise to a man she'd never met. "I'll keep teaching, Dad. Keep your methods alive. Keep your people safe. That's my mission now, and I won't fail." The ghost didn't answer. Didn't need to. The answer was in every student who learned, every life saved, every mission that succeeded because somewhere 33 years ago, a man recorded videos for a daughter he'd never meet and taught her how to be immortal.